Dan, thank you for joining today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The question I was going to ask you, it's nice and easy because I like to get straight into it, is how do you define yourself? What's the meaning of life, and how do you set a good example for your children?
Right. So
I'm joking. I'll come back to it. I was just thinking about our pre-conversation here, and yeah, we will. And that for anyone else watching this, I always take a few minutes beforehand just to chat about things that we care about, and man, that is so on my mind as well. I mean, more than anything that you and I do in technology, Dave. It's really on my mind. But anyway, we'll come to that in a second. We'll both explore, and you can ask me back, and I'll say I don't know, like I always do.
Kind of response to that question then, as you asked it, or
was I wanting to respond to you? Are you asking?
No. Did you get that from me? Did you get a good automatic deer in the headlights response to that question? Because I thought you jumped very in your first question. So.
Yeah. Let's start easier. We'll lead into it. So last week I met with Mikkel from your business Kitfit, and Kitfit are obviously people we depend on to scale our delivery and our customers. And Mikkel and I were talking about your new customer success platform, which utilizes AI. I don't know if I'm explaining that quite right, but this, as you know, has got me intrigued about the possibilities. I'm all over this stuff at the moment. I'd love to hear from you, from your perspective, what you think the possibilities are for customer success platforms that you use AI. Obviously, not giving away the keys to the kingdom with what you say, of course, but what's in your mind with the work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, we worked for a few years on the Kitfit product, which was kind of part social network, part social shopping experience, and there were ideas going through there about selling stuff together and how to recommend good products to people and things like that. But when 2020 happened, it changed the market for reselling kind of stuff. So we tried to take some of the learnings that we had developing that and dealing with different brands and things, and kind of focusing some of that stuff down into a customer success platform. It's very important to focus on that kind of thing to get your customer to be successful. I mean, it seems like a silly question to ask, is how important to you is the success of your customer? And I guess if you're just trying to grab a piece of money out of a bunch of customers and you don't care about that, then well, not at all. But for a lot of for us as a company, Kitfit, and I think for anyone who does software development for people, or anyone who's trying to build an ongoing win-win relationship with a customer, it's important to be focusing on this kind of thing. Customer success teams tend to be smaller, I think, teams, but very important to the businesses that need them, because it's important to recognize when your customers are being successful and when they're getting value, but to also, possibly more importantly, be able to identify when they're not getting value, so you can adjust and help keep the relationship going. Because the other question is, how long do you want your relationship to last? And I guess a fine answer is indefinitely. While both sides are getting value from it, why would you want to? Why would you want to stop? So yeah, I think we've taken the learnings we've got from that, just because of the time we've been developing it with this AI, large language model, natural language processing explosion. We had some tools that we wanted to create for ourselves out of the AI, so we could, start to produce marketing material and things like that. And those kind of tools we're definitely we see we can put into the customer success platform, but also they can be tools in their own right as well. And I feel like the language model tools are just going to become more and more powerful in a very short period of time. I mean, it's been a very big leap in the last 3 or 4 months anyway. And I think there's kind of parallels with a lot of other systems that one might develop. It's not so much about what the technology can do, but it's a question of integration and personalization and making it right for the person who's using it. Because some of the big players, one might worry about, like Google or Microsoft or OpenAI themselves, just like eating everyone's lunch on this, and producing just something that's incredible. Our feeling is that they're not really going to be able to focus on specific niches enough, on specific personalization or suitability for specific tasks enough. Just do the old-fashioned work of integration and meeting people's needs because there's a lot of stuff that's already looking like magic, really. Like even for someone who knows, someone who's got
totally.
a passing understanding of how simple the thing it does actually is. The results, the complicated and complex results that come out of that are very interesting. So as far as the tools go, we're doing things like helping you write content, also taken from the other side, helping you read content, and personalization in that the way you like to write, what audience you're writing for, the way you like to read or can read. So imagine say in the realm of customer success, imagine like a knowledge-based article that you can read that, but also you can interrogate it and ask it specific questions, and it can distill more documentation and say support information than can be put into one article.
Just as you're talking, you remind me of the quote. I just had to quickly look it up. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and you think we're at that inflection point with AI and large language models and natural language processing. You think we're there?
Yeah,
it's magic. It looks and feels like magic.
You're a Terry Pratchett fan, then? Was that Terry Pratchett? It is, right?
This is no, that's Arthur C. Clarke, I think. Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke. Pratchett might have recoined it, but Arthur C. Clarke, I think.
More tongue in cheek with how he put it. But yes, right. Yeah. No, I think we're definitely there, and even looking behind the curtain and like seeing you look at it, at least an explanation of what it's doing, and you go, that's actually simple. How is that so complicated? But I think a lot of things turn out to be that complicated. A lot of things turn out to be constructed from simple systems that either just do things a lot or in a big space, or one of your other interviews was with Mike.
Mike Gamble.
Thank you. And he and you guys were talking about biomimicry. It was very much resonant for me, because like a lot of computer science is by analogy. You try to apply learnings from other fields to solve a problem. Like if you can match the problems together, perhaps the solution that some other system has come up with is work for you. And I always feel like copying nature, and you're doing something right, because that's the way to get out how to do it. It didn't have a plan. It just had like a value calculation that it can do at each step along the way, and it's increasing value in that way.
Why do you think? I love that, by the way. And Mike, you'll get to know him. He's one of us, of course. You'll get to know him better over time. Why do you think we stepped away from imitating nature in the development of systems and the development of hierarchies? Why do you think we stepped away from that, and why are we coming back to it now? I mean, do you have? I mean, I know this is stretching far, but do you have a view on why that's the case?
I don't know that we did completely. I mean, I'm sure that there's always been someone there tinkering away with their neural network in the hopes that something would come from it. But maybe it's just, off the top of my head, maybe it's just a question of scale, because you can make a neural network with a few to focus on the large language model kind of structured. And you might say this is going to be able to do something, but while the model's small, it doesn't really do a lot. And as the model becomes bigger is when you get the kind of emergent behavior. I don't completely read the last OpenAI paper that came out, but they would definitely seem to be indicating that it does have like the first glimmer of emergent behavior. Now, not it has agency, or it can think, or it can actually know stuff, because I mean, at least at this stage, it almost certainly can't. But maybe that's the question. There is no difference between knowing stuff and seeming to know stuff.
There's no difference in knowing stuff and seeming to know stuff. Quite profound,
right? You might be a maths teacher and you're teaching a class something, and you can probably assume that, as the teacher, you can assume that you understand something, and you can try and impart that on the students, and you can test students and they can answer all the questions right, and you can even say to the student, come up to the class and explain it again, and okay, they explained it really well. Does that? My question would be, does that really prove that student understands the thing? And I mean, that's that kind of jobs that the language models are able to do now: answer questions using a piece of information and restate a piece of information. So either that's good enough to say yes, you know it, or it's not good enough to say yes, you know it. But either way, the student can then go and use that information, that knowledge, for things. And I guess the proposition is that the model can do that now as well. I do wonder, is there much difference practically in knowing something and appearing to understanding something and appearing to understand something?
I think I haven't talked much about code. You're making me think of a couple of the Stoic principles of knowledge and wisdom. To know is one thing, and to have the wisdom to execute that knowledge is another. I mean, the other Stoic principles being courage to use the wisdom, and courage to use knowledge, and temperance. So to not always use knowledge when you have it, or to have the wisdom not to use it. It's the four tenets of Stoicism, and I see it talked about a lot. And so it's interesting because you did use the word know. It's different. Is there a difference between knowing stuff and seeming to know stuff? I suppose it's the wisdom that comes later. I certainly feel I'm 46 now. I feel like I say that in every single meeting I do with people. Like it's a badge of honor, but I'm terrified by it, to be honest. I feel like more aware than I've ever been, learning more than I ever. I keep saying this to people. I feel like I'm drinking through a fire hose, and maybe it's this peripheral vision's opened, and maybe I thought I knew. Maybe I thought I had the knowledge. But now I have the wisdom to see that I don't know, and without getting too lost on these themes, but it's definitely something on my mind. It's actually back to the themes of the first question I jokingly asked you about, what's the meaning, right? Let me come back to some other thoughts, because we're obviously talking about some deep tech themes. You mentioned you read the most recent paper from OpenAI.
I can't. It was long. It was long, and I don't think I could understand it all anyway. But
yeah, TLDR, right? What's your domain of expertise? What are the? Let me ask that two things. What do you do to make a living technically? But then, what are you most into technically?
Okay. I mean, what I'm most into technically is going to be probably recency biased. The stuff that I'm doing recently, probably what I'm most into. And I guess I started off as a web developer. Well, I mean, there were probably a few projects in like straight out of university in crazy, weird languages, like on mobile tablets at a time where there was no public internet, and that was hard. But I guess like when ASP I'm giving out my age now.
Mm-hmm.
My advice to you about being 46 is that you're not 46, you're 3016. So
I'll take it. Yeah, done. It depends on the day whether I'm 30 or 16 then, doesn't it? You know, it depends on my mood and how I wake up. Great. I love it. I'll do it. I'll take it.
Yeah. So ASP, C# when it came out, and kind of there was a movement, at least in the stuff that I was doing, from writing desktop apps to more moving into writing web apps to things, as working in the browser with JavaScript, and that became more feasible. A bit of native iPhone and Android development when that came about, but I enjoyed that at the time, but it's not as much fun, and glib as it sounds, I'm very much into fun in my work. I mean, I do count myself extremely fortunate to be able to enjoy my job, and I've been fortunate to fall into positions or get myself into positions where I'm able to work in the way that I want to, and with people that I enjoy working with.
So you've got ASP, you've got mobile platform developments, you've got... And you spent some time around hardware as well. I was thinking about, well, you must have spent time around hardware because you had the Shark Band wearables. So you've got some hardware experience there. Talk to me a bit about that, man. What
is that on my LinkedIn, or did you read my? Oh, it might be in a copy of the resume or something. Anyway,
it's in nothing. I'm actually a mind reader, just so you know. It's one of the.
You've said two things that I had written on my own notes. Now I'm worried. Is there Shark Band. So I actually started out in electrical and computer engineering. I love making stuff, and all through high school I was really into electronics, and it's like, oh, what can I do in electronics? And I did some electronics technician stuff for work experience, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and do that. But then the electrical engineering turned out to be less about designing and building stuff, and more about passing mathematics exams, which, while I love the lectures, I don't enjoy going to do mathematics exams. So it was a pivot before pivots were so fashionable, right? So I kind of just looked at what I was doing and what I had been doing in courses, and the only thing that I really was enjoying was the computer science stuff, because that really scratches the creating stuff itch as well. I mean, once you get past the obligatory writer cataloging system for a library, which they tended to start with back then, I think it's much easier now. You start by like writing a little game or something that at least you might be interested in. Sorry, where were we going?
I was asking you about the hardware stuff, and you said you started.
The hardware stuff. Yes. So
electrical and computing.
Yeah, so I started in there, and it's always been a thing that I like tinkering with. So myself and three friends, probably away for a weekend drinking around the table, you know, this came to us. It was a Department of Primary Industries funding grant to make use of the new Shark Boys that they'd put around the state. That was tagged sharks, and they had this information. They didn't really know what to do with it. So we designed and produced a prototype of a base station and a wearable wrist band that used radio transmitters and the Twitter feed, actually, that they'd chosen to use for some reason to get information about which sharks had been detected at which beaches, and then determine at the beach that boy was placed at, then send out a signal which would make the bands beep and flash and vibrate. I think we did get the vibration in there, actually. Yeah. And that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Like the process.
So it was an alert system to let you know if a particular shark was in the area, as opposed to a repulsion system.
Yeah, sorry, no, not a repulsion system. I mean, because that's good too. The one that they've got on the surfboards. I mean, I think if I was in the ocean, that's what I would want. But this was more of there has been a shark detected in the area. You may want to come out of the water.
I saw on recent. I mean, I love it. I mean, I had a hardware business for 5 years before this, so and again, I'm not tech. I'm more product and delivery and customer engagement, just same as now, basically. And I'm sure I saw a Shark band recently came out where the device might be about as big as the Apple AirPod case on a wrist thing, and it had a repulsion system built into it, and it's just mind blowing, the hardware and how it's moving ahead.
We won a grant to produce it, and we produced 10 bands and a base station, like manufacturing it through China. I say a friend of mine did. One of the other guys did most of the laying out of the circuit board. I like to think I helped him a little bit, but I enjoyed it. But the problem coming at it, neither of us were actually electrical engineers or anything. So you're like, oh, I want to get this thing to work, and now you're going, well, okay, how does a buzzer work from first principles? Where do I put it on the board?
Yeah.
What do I do underneath it? And you figure it out, and it worked. It worked well. We've got videos of one of the guys swimming 400 meters off Bondi and us triggering the shark alert and him waving back at us. So that's a fun video. So we were able to produce what they'd asked for in that, and then they were like, okay, so what are you going to do now? And unfortunately, three of the other guys had just taken jobs overseas and were about to move overseas, and I think I just started at started at Digital 5, started at Kitfit. So we just weren't in a position to take it forward. And I know someone has actually done it now. They've productized it, and basically you look at their material and it's like, wow, that's completely exactly what we did. That's I mean, it's awesome as well. But we were kind of hoping that they would, license technology office or something or that. But it's not. It's hard when you're close to the development of something, because you always look at it going, it's actually not doing that much, but it works, right?
Yeah, I love it. It seems to be a common theme across our group. Say again?
I really enjoy that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, tinkering and,
It's a common theme across the group. That's what I was going to say. Nice. By the way, just hold that up for me a second. Hold that up, your stein. Dave Clark, the drinker of a stein of coffee. Is that brand Stan? Is that the Stanley brand, as in the tools brand Stanley? Is that what that is?
Yeah, we could get a branding deal.
Nice. So it's a common theme across our business. Many of us have been involved in hardware at one point, and whether it's the nature of or the joy of making something physical, I don't know, or the challenge of it, rather than just messing around with software. Obviously, you can see the results of that as well, but it seems to be a theme. Do you think that's do you have a view on whether that's necessary for an engineer to be a very good engineer, that at some point they must have played around with hardware, or do you think it's by the by, doesn't matter?
Oh, for a software engineer? It's probably not necessary. I just don't know many who don't have, maybe not necessarily playing around with other hardware stuff, but certainly other very interests that focus them a lot. You do tend to bump into a lot of people who are into making making in some other way. I mean, like I said before, that I do get a lot of the creation, creating things itch scratched by making software, but not enough. I definitely need a creative outlet, and I don't necessarily mean creativity, but the creation of a thing. So I tend to lean more towards less abstract things for like pastime, like woodworking or ceramics or bread or things like that.
You actually look like a guy that works with woodwork and ceramics and bread. You look like you could be in any one of those professions, just so you know, including software. Yeah, it is a compliment for sure. I asked you before about the where you started, so what you did there's two parts of it. Is like what tech are you into, and then what do you do for business, for work type thing. Now and we got into that whole conversation. I feel like we started with what you did in the past, but the recency bias didn't come to really. So what is the recency bias? Like what do you do with tech right now?
So right now it's completely JavaScript stuff, or TypeScript more specifically. React came about a couple of years ago. I kind of immediately I immediately got it, and it was like the declarative kind of component based nature of it, which like gives you a simplicity of the mapping between the data that you're going to give it and what it should look like, leaving the how to the framework. One of it's not a framework, but leaving the how to something else, and backends as a service. So I think RavenDB was the first one, and then Firebase before Google bought it, and just as a way of spending the least amount of time on things like infrastructure and tasks that are not actually part of the solution. They're necessary in some cases, but if you can just skip doing that work, you can, then all the better. So like at the very beginnings of Kitfit, we identified that we were going to use Firebase and be able to basically jump straight in writing code to deliver value without any extensive system architecture kind of planning and things like that. The amount of, we worked in the Sydney startup hub there, and the amount of,
okay.
Not mentioning any names, mainly because I probably can't remember them, but the amount of times that I've heard things like, oh, we're starting a new project and I've just spent 6 weeks getting the Kubernetes cluster working properly, and it's like, what? How many users do you have right now? Why did you do that? Why didn't you just stick it up on the cloud somewhere? Like use AWS, use Google Cloud, use Firebase.
Why do people still do that? The knowledge is around, David. Why do people still do that? Why do they still do it that way?
I don't know. I've maybe cynically, is that bad that my first go-to is to respond cynically? But anyway, maybe cynically it's because they enjoy doing that, and I can completely get that. Like if you enjoy doing that, that's fine. But I mean, you're wasting your money, or more likely someone else's money. I think a lot of the time people are like, oh, if you use that kind of system, that's going to be really expensive when you've got 100,000 users, or once you get to a million page views a day, it's going to fall over. Well, is that a now problem, or like, I'm not saying you don't think about the future at all, but I mean spending time worrying about that now is not the way to do like the next best thing that's going to see value given to your customer.
I don't think it's cynical at all, by the way.
Again.
Say again, sorry?
I'm sorry. Did we get to the end of the question that time, or did we fly off on a tangent again?
I love tangents. There's nothing tangential about it.
I have to practice a thing that I think they called for some time log-based development, or maybe log-based life. Like I'm doing something and I have to, when a side thought happens, I have to write it down if I need to continue with the thing that I'm on, and then come back to it and double back to it. I'm a lists kind of person, not because to-do lists.
You mean like this as you're speaking?
Lovely. not because to-do lists are a great way to get anything done necessarily, but just to get it out so you can continue with what you're trying to do.
Where do you put your log-based life? Where do you do that? Is it on paper, or is it on reminders? Where do you capture it?
There's nothing written on it. I don't want to flash it, so I haven't written anything down just yet. I've
Because
been.
I've said nothing interesting.
Sorry? No.
I feel the book on your behalf, and you've got not written a single thing about me.
I'll just grab a different one and show you. I've got an app on my phone that I really like called. Well, I don't want to give out any plugs for anyone, but it's called Clear. It was actually just mostly a neat UI for making little to-do lists, and it was cool. I think they're updating it right now. It's supposed to. So when it came out, obviously, like any programmer does, I wrote a huge list of how I would have done it better. And then that became one of my things of like, oh, if I ever get a chance to do that, I could write that again. And there was just things about like more easily moving items around and stuff to not use it as a to-do list and a reminders list, but a way of keeping things in order. And I think they're moving in that direction. But a lot of, I mean, what's wrong with a piece of paper? I mean, pieces of paper are fine. A lot of the time they're just, it's just temporary anyway. It's temporary holding area that works better than trying to remember what you were going to do next in your head. At least for my head, it does.
Talking of logging thoughts, you've made me think this. I don't think it's cynical to think that people's past behavior and preferences are a prediction of the way that they would want to do things in the future. I mean, there's a reason they've been drawn to those behaviors. I think it makes me also think about our community a little bit. You know, when I think about how the team operates and thinks, you know, you and Mikkel and Andrew and Dan and Mike and others, there is a deep nature of experimentation, solving problems, doing it in a lean way. And I wonder if that's why it works. It works for us when we're trying to solve problems for customers. And I know when we bring people in who've maybe had big enterprise thinking and that's all they've ever done, big organizational thinking and solving problems, it's very different. I don't think it means that they can't shift, but it is different. Yeah, there's some more pondering I need to do on that, but I don't think the thought is cynical. I think you're right. People perhaps enjoy it, or maybe it's all that they know, or maybe there's some ego tied to it. Now that's me being cynical. You weren't being cynical. I'm being cynical. Thank you, appreciate that. So, man, if people wanted to reach out to you about stuff to have a chat about, I mean, I'm conscious we've gone over time already, but if people wanted to reach out and quiz you over anything, share knowledge on anything, ask an opinion, what would it be?
So business-wise, completely customer success. That's where we're focused now. If you've got ideas for what you need for customer success, or if you've seen anything that we're trying to get out there, actually you won't have yet for the customer success side of things, but once you do, or the AI tools that we're building. But personally, and I noticed you asked this question of people, so I did make a list. I made a list, and it's not including like constants in my adult life, like woodworking and cooking and camping and bread, but you know, as far as a list of topics that someone could that I could happily converse with someone for as long as they're interested. I've got a list. So it's where is it? So okay, here we go. It's not that extensive, but this is current things that I find interesting. So karate, learning to weld, the Stoics, which you mentioned already, tabletop gaming, benefits of cold showers, learning guitar and piano and music theory, and circle right back to the start, how exactly to be a good example for your kids. I think that's kind of at the forefront right now. And maybe, you know, how to turn more shoulds into dids. Very philosophical.
Yeah, well, we haven't finished yet. I've still got to come back all the way to my first question. I just wanted to, give that, and then it leads to that. But it's nicely, it sort of bookends really nicely into some of those interests. By the way, when you do bread, is it sourdough that you're making?
Should I be ashamed to say yes that I did start a sourdough starter in March of 2020? I had actually done it before out of interest. It was like, how does this bread stuff work? And then you're like, you get flour and water. And it's like, that can't possibly work. What are you talking about? And the first time it took a few goes to not get just a horrific beast that you couldn't make anything from. But last time it did, it survived. It was great, and it survived for months, and then I killed it. But as like a good software engineer, I did back it up first, which you can do.
Did you back it up in the freezer? Was it in the freezer or the fridge? Where was your backup?
I've done both, just in case it didn't work. But like a lot of projects, I haven't tried restoring it yet, so I don't know. So I tried one. I dried both of them out, and I've frozen one and stored one in the pantry in an airtight container, which apparently is the way to go. But we'll see what happens.
How did you dry it out?
In a very slow oven.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Because I make sourdough too, and I took my starter away camping with some friends. It wasn't the backup. It was just my travel starter. And I gave it to one of the kids, and of course they dropped it and smashed it next to the campfire, and so that was that. And when I came back, I had my emergency one, but I didn't create a backup from that. I had the backup, and then I don't know, I went away or something, and it all turned black and went a bit off, and I had to chuck it. So I had that for a few years. Anyway, recently Andrew's wife gave me a starter that she's had for a while, and so I've just started back, and I've got the leaven going outside, ready to go to make some ready for this weekend. So I'm with you on the sourdough, mate. Nothing wrong with that at all.
For hours on this, I've got extensive notes about the experimentation I did. One of the big things that I didn't like was sorry for anyone else who just couldn't care. I managed not to swear. But one of the big things was for me was a lot of the ways that they tell you to do it just uses a lot of flour wasted. Like you pour the flour in and throw half of it away. So I found lots of recipes to use that for, because you do have to get rid of a bit of it, otherwise it grows like the blob. But also, like with a few tweaks, you can actually not feed it quite so often, and no interstitial feedings. So I was able to keep it alive for about 18 months, only baking twice a week, which turns out to be more bread than I actually want to eat. So that's kind of why I stopped. Actually, that's not why I stopped. I stopped because it got an orange mold in it, which was unidentifiable by me anyway. Sure,
the mold might have been good for you, Dave. Maybe.
You can actually eat it with the black mold in it, I think. That might be wrong. Look that up. It's not health advice.
I threw mine away because of it, just in case.
Some of the molds in it, it's fine. It just doesn't taste great. But the red mold apparently is not good. Might be.
Okay. Noted. Do not eat red mold.
No,
sounds like some sort of death cap toadstool or mushroom, whatever.
Don't eat yellow snow, right? Don't eat.
Yellow starter. People are going to learn so much from you and me. Don't eat red mold. Don't eat yellow snow. I mean, we've got it all. Maybe some other time we'll cover the stoic stuff that we touched on, because I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the fact you're doing karate, but I did want to come back to the thing we started off with as the bookend, because we've definitely going to run out of time, or we have already. This thing about meaning of life, being a good influence to kids. This is a question on my mind. I think it. I'm not saying that I don't care about my work or the people I work with or my friends, but it definitely feels why I was put on earth was to be a father and a parent to me anyway. Maybe not for everybody, but that's what I've evolved into in my 16 years. What's your revelation been for that? If there has been one, about setting an example for the kids, like what have you arrived at that you could share with me so I can embody it?
That's why I'm hoping people will contact me with telling me. Look, I think, I don't know, as far as revelations go, I guess maybe. I mean, actually, no, this is not health advice. Maybe this is not true, but I get the feeling that you can't really ruin them too much. Like anything is probably temporary, right? Because there's plenty of, while there were counter cases, there are plenty of people that had bad upbringings that don't turn out to be bad people. But like, I've never been a super angry person. I had I was going to say a thing. I'm not going to say that thing now. But I did have a bit of a reputation for telling people what I thought sometimes. But I don't think in my adult life I ever actually shouted at anyone until I had a 5-year-old child. And I tell you what, if you find yourself shouting at a child, well, probably anyone realistically, you've already lost. Something's gone wrong, right? And one of those, like a lot of things, you know it in your head. I know completely this is unhelpful or worse. But how do you avoid doing that? And I guess it's like open defiance, right? It's because they're openly defiant. But then you think again, and you're like, am I trying to bring up a child that's compliant and obedient? And I'm like, no. What I want to do is bring up a child who is able to be disciplined for themselves, right? Like discipline is not just following someone else. It's also, and I guess I'm just speaking directly to myself here, right? Is also discipline in and of yourself, like disciplined enough to do the things that you intend to do.
I got it.
Philosophical.
Yeah. I look forward to when we get together in person and talk some more about these topics. It's actually one of the things that I love. I love that when you walk into the room and the guys are there next time, you'll have an insight to them, the team, and you and I together as well, and there'll be themes to pick up and talk about. And I think this is of interest. I do anyway, but who knows? Okay, I am going to let you get back to your day, David. Thank you very much for your time. Good to hang out. Good to talk tech, life, bread, stoicism, karate, music, woodwork, ceramics, man, shark repellent systems. Is there no end to our mutual shared areas of interest? I love it, dude.
Maybe we need to add one more thing to our list, and it's how to get 36 hours out of a 24-hour day, because of so many things that we need to do.
Yeah, mate, that's true. We'll record that for the next one, my friend.